Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm here to give you my thoughts on the upcoming game between Luton and Hull. International break is finally over. No more international breaks until March and we can now all enjoy a very chaotic end of year football schedule. We all know what happens around Christmas. Lots of games happen, whether you like Championship, Premier League, Champions League. We've got everything from now until the end of the season. But can Luton, especially Luton, end this calendar year on a high? It hasn't been great this year. Relegation, a poor start to the Championship season. But can we end the calendar year on a high and hopefully have a much better year in 2025? We've had so many great years over the last 10. We were due a poor season. We were due a poor year. We finally got it. Hopefully we can just undo the mistakes we've made in this year and hopefully have a much more successful year coming up. But anyway, Luton versus Hull. It all starts here really, doesn't it? If we want a positive end of year, can we get a result against Hull? Lots of pressure on Rob Edwards, especially after losing 5-1 away from home against Middlesbrough, and he would not want to lose this game against Hull. And the word which I'm going to use quite often in this video is going to be mentality, because it was used quite frequently in the press conference. But let's talk about our opponent first, Hull City. What do I make of Hull? Well, if you look at the form table, it's not looking good. Hull haven't won a game since the 1st of October, and yeah, they've been on quite a poor run of form. Now, Hull hired a new coach in the summer and he goes by the name of Tim Walter. I think that is how you pronounce his name. I'm just saying it in the most English way possible rather than probably a German pronunciation to it. But anyway, Tim was hired in the summer. He had some interesting years in Germany where he was competing at the top end of the second division in Germany, trying to win promotion to the top division. He was unable to do that, but he was playing an attractive style of football that was winning plenty of games of football. Now Hull decided that they wanted to get rid of Liam Rosenior. I think Liam's vision of where the club was going to go in terms of style of play was completely different to the Hull ownership. Now, if you didn't know, Hull have got some new owners. They are Turkish owners, and they've come in and they've actually given, I would argue and say, given Hull fans some hope, some happiness. Although they've made some poor, I believe, football decisions, they've come in and given them a boost. And the previous owners, they weren't quite doing that. They were running the club in a poor way. And the Turkish owners have come in and hopefully trying to turn that all around and make Hull play in the Premier League again like they were previously. But they did dismiss Liam Rosenior in the summer, which I thought was the wrong decision. I thought when he first joined Hull, he kept him up because they did look really poor before he arrived. He started to build foundations. He kind of stabilised everything. And then he wanted to build on and hopefully try and push Hull into competing for those playoff positions. But it didn't quite work out that way. They had a really good, recruitment-wise last season. But big injuries kind of let them down and they kind of fell short towards the end. Maybe Liam Rosenior's style of play was a little bit more cautious than what they wanted. They probably wanted a little bit more positivity, a lot more attacking, but he was a little bit more cautious at attacking the right moments type of man. And you see what he's doing in France. He's doing a fantastic job over there, and he's someone who I rate quite highly, and I would love to manage Luton one day. The way he talks in his interviews and the way he comes across like a really nice guy, someone who really cares, and he does come across really intelligent as well. And I felt Hull, if they kept him for this season, they would have done very similar to what they did last year, but potentially even better, because they've got that foundation, that stabilisation there with him. But it does look like they've taken a couple steps back in terms of the football aspect. And Tim, the German coach which they hired, he's got a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure on him, and this game against Luton could be his last job, especially his last game, especially if they lose away from home. But when you look at Hull's away form, it's actually quite good. They're in the top 10 in terms of away form in the Championship. It's actually their home form that's actually letting them down. They're not the best at home. They're in the bottom 5 in terms of home form in the Championship, and that's something that needs to get better if they're going to have a good season this year in the Championship. But at the moment, it certainly doesn't look like that's going to happen. So that's pretty much whole story so far, I want to say. But let's have a look at Luton and what we learned from the press conference that happened today. We don't have our star player, Alfie Doughty. He has suffered ankle ligament damage. He suffered this in the game, I think it was against Cardiff by memory, and we allowed him to continue when he had the knock in the game. We all could see it in the stand. Oh, he looks hurt, he looks slightly too hurt, if that's even a thing. And we allowed him to come back on the pitch, which I thought was really poor from our medical staff, who have been under a lot of questions since, well, for the last 18 months, because we keep getting players regularly getting injured. And yeah, he's not going to be available until the new year. And he's absolutely massive, Alfie, because in terms of what he gives to Luton, the amount of opportunities he creates from his set pieces, but also the data supports that as well. He does create a lot of chances with the amount of crosses he puts into the box. He is someone that we rely on, especially going forward. And even though he's great going forward, I've been really happy with how he's defended so far this season, which is, there's been a lot of question marks over. So he's going to be absolutely massive in terms of missing from now until the end of the season. So who's going to replace Alfie in that left wing back spot? I think it is going to be Amari Bell, or it would be Victor Moses. But I do think it's going to be Bell. I think it makes sense for it to be Bell. Left-sided. We don't have many left-footed defenders in the Luton Town team, so I think it does make sense. I wouldn't play Joe Johnson because of this word, the mentality amongst the Luton players right now. We have a very poor mentality. I don't think there's any question marks in terms of how good we are as a football team. I think we are a top 10 side, but we're just not performing like a top 10 side. We are underperforming. The data also shows us that as well. We should be competing in that top 10 area in the table, but we're not. And why aren't we? Well, in front of goal, we have been quite poor in terms of converting our chances. That's gotten better over the last couple of weeks, but it's more about defending. When we concede a goal, we take 5 to 10 minutes to get over the fact that we've conceded a goal, and that's where the word mentality is going to come into it. Edwards has come out and said that's what they've been working on, the mental side of the game. And I really hope they can get this right, because no one really wants to sack Edwards. We don't really realistically want to do it. We want things to go back to how they were, the success. Luton fans saying we've got Super Robbie Edwards. But that only happens if you win games of football, if you get positive results. So we've got to sort out the mental side of our game, because heads drop every time we concede a goal is not what we wanted. The way we reacted and the body language in the Middlesbrough game was a massive concern for me. So we do need a response from that 5-1 defeat against Middlesbrough. We need to see a response and hopefully perform extremely well. Attacking wise, look dangerous. Defensive side of things need to be solid. And if we do concede, get over it like quite quickly. Don't spend 5, 10, 15 minutes dwelling on the fact that we've conceded a goal. That's the most important thing. So we need to make sure our mentality is right. And as I've already mentioned, the weather conditions for the game tomorrow is going to be poor. Cold, extremely wet. It's going to be horrible conditions to play football. But that's where you see your true leaders, and hopefully we do see the true leaders stand out in the game against Hull. We are without Jordan Clark, who's been I would say a regular under Edwards so far this season. He has picked up 5 suspensions. We also don't have Morris as well, so we're missing 2 players due to suspension. So there's going to be a slight different type of lineup in this game against Hull. I can imagine it could potentially be Brown and Elijah Adebayo as our striker partnership. And then in the midfield, this is the big question: who plays in the midfield? Reece Burke is also back from injury, which is great to see. I've always remained this statement: if he can stay fit, he's a Premier League centre half. But that's his biggest problem. He keeps getting injuries, and Hull know everything about Reece Burke because we were the club that signed Reece Burke from. So he's gonna probably want to put in a really good performance against his former side, and I do think he would go straight into the starting 11. Mans Anderson is back. There's question marks over Nakamba. I think the biggest question mark is going to be the midfield, winning the battle in midfield. And I think if we can win the battle in midfield, I think we walk away with the 3 points, and we put more pressure on the German coach at Hull on whether or not he keeps his job or not. But that's how I see it. I think it's getting over this mentality barrier. If we concede early or concede at any point in the game, get over it, respond back as quick as possible. But you might not have to do all that if you just do your game properly. Plan A, get the goal early, dictate the play, control the play, do what we need to do to win a game of football. Show me that similar performance that won 3-0 against Watford at home, that performance that was good against Sunderland in elements. Show us that, and then the fans will get behind you, and yeah, hopefully we're celebrating at the end with 3 points. Those are my thoughts on this game. Hopefully Luton can turn this year around, end it on a high, and yeah, I speak to you guys in a very positive way after the game, but we'll soon find out. Drop a like, comment below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my match reaction after the game against Hull.